This video is sponsored by Squarespace, helping you bring your business to life through amazing, intuitive websites you can build yourself. Any world I've been to in a game, I've always wanted to go to the edge of it, to explore every nook and cranny, to discover everything it had to offer. That feeling has never gone away, and honestly, I don't think it ever will. With the tools of today, though, we can explore farther and wider than we ever could in the past, which is super helpful when the places you're looking to comb through go from instant smaller maps to places the size of galaxies. Now, you may have noticed most notably on my other channel that I've dove headfirst into the worlds of Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 very often. And honestly, I'm not even halfway through everything there is to explore despite tackling these games for over a year now. There's tons of mysteries I still need to seek out, and obviously we have a really weird one which we'll be talking about today. So if you watched my video on the mysterious dry bones, you already know that I've been studying this game for a special type of video that will be released later this year. YouTuber Collin Hughes is helping me make that a reality. But during this examination process, there's been a lot of odd things to surface. So to start off, we need to head on over to Slipsand Galaxy in World 5. Slipsand is kind of a bizarre stage, because throughout majority of it, we're winding through sandy tubes similar in shape to what one would expect from Gusty Garden Galaxy in the first game. So right off the bat, when researching worlds, I always immediately try to see what places have always been off limits. Obviously, a huge one for Slipsand is the enormous pyramid that we never really get to actually check out. About the only thing we do is fly near it, only to be whisked away on a sand slide as soon as we land. So obviously, flying there was a priority. What's interesting is despite the giant pyramid looking like it'd be the perfect place to run and climb, we actually can't interact with it because it lacks collision. So you just kind of fly through it if you're using a flying hack, which is kind of a bummer. The next thing I turned to was the giant pillars that tower over the level. But the thing is, they're actually part of the skybox, so you can't actually get to them either. They don't move or respond to position despite how far you travel. It's like the edges of the room in Toy Time Galaxy. You can never touch them. But this is where things get strange, because despite how many awesome things this level offered, it was kind of a tease, all except one thing. Or rather, three things. While wrapping up work on this particular level for that video I mentioned earlier, Collin and I were focusing on the first planet that you start on in the galaxy. It's the one that looks like a giant sandy snake, with sand rushing towards you. On the first star for this galaxy, you normally make your way to the end and launch off to the next area. On the second star, a pipe is in the middle section, which takes you to an underground area, which then spits you back out to the first planet. You then jump on a star and ride over to the last part of the level. But let's rewind that, because on the very tip of this planet is 3 extra life mushrooms that are pretty much impossible to achieve. The thing is, you can never actually see them because from your perspective, it looks like nothing is over there. At no point on this entire planet can you use your camera in first-person view to see what's over the edge of the planet. Beyond that, the objects would probably be unloaded anyways due to the distance. You can make it over to the area on Star 1, but on Star 2, things are changed. You don't have to make it to the end of the planet to progress. All the sand is rushing towards you in a way where you can't long jump quick enough to make it to the end. If you go around the entire planet, it's the same on all sides. Rushing sand that you can't get past. But there has to be a way, right? Why would a developer put 3 extra life mushrooms at a place impossible to reach? Anyone playing through this game would never know they were even there. But there's one place that does mention their existence, and it's in the official strategy guide. But the thing is, the guide only says there are 3 extra lives in the area. There are no notes on how to actually grab them. But let's rule some things out. First, these 1-ups are only spawned on Star 2, sailing the sandy seas. Choosing any other star means they won't be viable since they are unloaded. Star 2 doesn't contain any other way to get back to this planet, as it only has 1 launch star leaving it. So that means in order to obtain these extra lives, one has to figure out a way to do it on the planet itself. Now, immediately we of course try to power through this area by long jumps or spin jumps. But the thing is, the velocity of the sand forces Mario or Luigi back, so they never actually make any progress. So I took a step back and started to think about the area itself. The area we come from actually has 4 dry bones prior to this sandy river section. 3 are located around the ring, and 1 is hidden within a crystal we need to shatter. This was when I began brainstorming about how to actually get across, and potentially what the developer was maybe thinking. My hypothesis was that if you lured all the dry bones into the sand, they could walk across it without getting affected by the pushing motion. A lot of times enemies in games don't behave the way players do, so I was thinking there was a chance this would be similar. At this point, the player would spin off the heads of each dry bones as they collapse, basically using them to stall for time from the raging sand. Cycling through 4 dry bones in theory would give a decent amount of time for the first to recover, meaning the player wouldn't have to touch the sand as often as before. But the issue is that the dry bones can't actually leave this raised section of land though, despite what you do, meaning we're back at square one. Without any possibilities available, it seems like this was the end. But that's when Collin decided to take a few stabs at the challenge. Since he used to speedrun the game and knows a lot more about it than I do, perhaps he'd be able to make it across. And that's when we discovered just how brutally annoying this challenge actually is. It turns out it is possible to cross, but it's going to take you 5 minutes of spin jumping, on frame 1 every single time. The only way your character actually progresses through the sand is if you make a perfect spin jump repeatedly over time. What that means is you need to initiate a jump as soon as Mario Luigi's foot touches the ground, get as much horizontal movement as possible with a spin, and repeat this process over and over again until your arm aches. The reason why this is incredibly annoying to do is if you press the button too early, your press won't count, and the sand will make you lose like a minute of progress. On the flip side, if you press the button too late, you're already on the ground and losing progress again. Only through perfect execution can Mario and Luigi power through the raging sand to reach the extra lives on the other side. A task that was deemed impossible turned out to be possible. But there's something that still doesn't seem right. Out of any challenge in a Mario game, I've never encountered something this physically grueling and repetitive. So that leads me to wonder, how was someone actually supposed to get these? Just because we found a way to grab the mushrooms doesn't mean that was the intended method. Booting up this level in an editor shows that nothing else exists though. No hidden objects that are supposed to spawn. No launch stars that are supposed to bring us across. Absolutely nothing. So was this just an incredibly hard challenge put in by a developer? Or was the means to get across accidentally deleted at some point before launch? I guess that's the part of the mystery we'll never really know. But now that I've shared all that, have you ever attempted to grab these? Or perhaps you have your own story about a hard to obtain item. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Sponsorships help out a ton, so I want to thank Squarespace for supporting me with my deep dives into video games. Many years ago, prior to doing YouTube, I actually did freelance web design, and if I had something like Squarespace back then, my life would have been way easier. The slick templates they have allow you to design eye-catching, stunning websites to promote your business or side hustle in just the right way. They make it easy so you can create the online presence of your dreams without having to understand all the coding you'd normally need. So, ready to create your new website? Make it with Squarespace and get 10% off your first Squarespace order with offer code SwankyBox. You can find an offer link in the description below. And I want to thank Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Thanks for tuning in to this 1-up trial. If you're looking for some more Super Mario Galaxy 2 content, swing on over to Swanky Zone, my rebranded second channel, to watch me sprint across the streets of Super Mario Sunshine's Delfino Plaza, in a game it's not supposed to be in. Thanks for watching, guys and gals, and until my next video, cheers.